under division, basically there is like this contour. So if you want to slice an object, so it's maybe we can use that later in the application, but let's see that. The main thing is like divide curves, but there is like three ways to division a curve. Let's use just the first one, divide curve, and I will put it up here. Let me just save my document. So I'll come to File, Save Document As, and save. For the previous ones, I can maybe just select everything, maybe group it. If like with the middle wheel, you hit, like if you click this one, it will group your components, and I will take them away. I'm left with my like curves and points. Let's divide first this curve, or first curve. If we plug it here, it will automatically divide it into 10 parts. So which is like the default value. If you hover here over the count, you can see one locally defined value, which is 10. Double click and say 20. Enter. If you insert a slider to the count, you can control how many parts do you want to divide your curve. So you can create a lot of divisions. Yeah, again, this is also like a very useful thing when you want to, I don't know, create new things on as an application for like this today's work. I can do like, I don't know, some modification or like a pattern using these points, but I will need a lot of mathematics and list things. But okay, I'm gonna use basic mathematics to create the division, or like these segments. We will use a different component. So for now, the function of this component is only creating the points, right? So it didn't really it's created the segments, the line segments, because if I check now the output, I don't have like something like line segments or so. To create that line segments, I will use this shatter. So this shatter is asking me for the curve. I will plug in the curve, and it's asking for the parameters, which are again like at what point do you want to shatter. So I'm going to use these parameters, the parameters of these points that I have. So I'll just plug this into here. The normal line, which is like this, it means that it has only one value. Like for now, this is one curve, so it's feeding in one value, one curve. But for the parameters, now I have more than one value, which is saying that 50 value, which are the positions of the divisions. So it just showing you that you have multiple data. That's it. The shader creates you the line segments or the curve segments, but divided. So to just better visualize them, I will like with the wheel click, I will bake to see how that looks on Rhino. So if I select, you know, like the selection box from left to right. So if you try to click, it will tell you like which one do you want to select, the small segment or the big curve. I have segments at my points. After these segments, what I will do now is this. I want to create some pattern that goes like this in between these points. So there are many ways to do that. Maybe like take 1 point this way, 1 point this way, and then create curves on them. But what I will do now, since we already used the shatter and we have our segments, I will use the offset command. So I will offset 1 to each side. So like one curve will go this way, maybe 1 millimeter, or I don't know, like 5 millimeters, and the next one would be like -5. So if it will be like 1 on the left, 1 on the right. Is
Okay.
it? So yeah, this is what I'm trying to do. To do that, first, because I will separate these segments. I have 50 segments now. Because I want to separate them, I will use the command. It's called dispatch. Link these segments to the list. Default value, it comes with a pattern that is true false. So it like creates like 2 different values. So now if I just to check, I will call this container again, the curve container, an empty one, and I will link the first group. You can see that I have like 1 group of them, and the other one, the list B, is the other ones. So now I have 25 segments in one list and 25 segments in the other list. So what I will do is I will call from this utility under curve, this group here, I will use offset curve. I will use it twice. So I'm gonna link one list to one of them and the other list to the other. But now, like what happens is, because it has, like if you see in this distance, like how much distance you want to create your offset, it has a default value of 1. So let me say 3, and the other one I will create as -3. But if I do that only with the search, it will not work. If I call the curve middle, also again, another one. Let me take these old ones. Now I have
Curve to
these
curve.
points, yeah. Now, thing is, if I use this interpolate is like somehow similar to the Rhino command that we created curves using points. You remember, like when you put some points, it creates a curve in between. This is the similar command. It's NURBS curve. It's called like this, NURBS curve, or interpolate. For now, let's use interpolate. And I will put my vertices here. If I say flatten, if I just leave it this way, so it will deal with each point as individual. So that, well, we will talk about this later in the lists. In order for me to make it understand that all of these points are like the same, I will right click on the vertices and say flatten. Maybe we can use a different one. Let's use this NURBS curve.
Okay.
Again, like this, using shift, the other one, and flatten. I'm gonna delete the old one. This NURBS curve, as you can see here in the symbol, the icon, it does not pass through the points, these points that we use. It just somehow passes in between them. So these points just attract as magnets from one side. If, let's say, I want to create a circle, just creating some circle here in Rhino, and we'll set all of this work to this circle. Yeah, it's going to be better. This last component that we dealt with, which is the NURBS curve. It has some function here. It's called, do you want it to be periodic? Do you want it to continue? By default, it's set to be false. So if you right click from set Boolean, if you choose true, it will make it periodic. So the Boolean that we had in Rhino, like, or we used maybe in the introduction, I showed that it's here. So you can do Boolean union, Boolean difference, intersection, or split. That's a totally different thing from the Boolean that is in Grasshopper. The Boolean Grasshopper is just a value, a logical value of true and false. That's it. So if you double click and I say Boolean, there is a Boolean toggle, and it gives me this toggle. So it's double click, you make it true, double click, make it false. It's just like a button or something. So
Oops.
just something that you can control these kind of inputs. So you can see in the icon here inside this hexagon, you can see like how half circle is full, half empty, which is like, do you want it on or off? So this is what Boolean mean here. The logic value, I guess, or mathematical value of on and off. So if now it's because it's true, the smooth curvy, like this pattern, will be closed. If I double click, it will be open. In the distance, we are using different number here and different number here. So if we want to make it very easy control to recontrol, I will delete this panel. I can enter something that is called negative. Basically, what this one does is it takes a value and makes it negative. So now it's taking a 3 and giving -3 in the result. Both of these offsets that we created earlier, both of them are controlled by this. If you can see, this is linked to both of them. That's why if I make bigger number, I can control my pattern. So yeah, making some divisions, dividing these into segments using this shader. Then these segments we're dividing into two lists, like two alternative lists, and creating offsets. One is like on the right, one on the left, then creating a curve from these points. From the number slider, I can also like control the number of divisions. So now if we only have 30 divisions, it will have less curves.
Oops.
But if we make it up to 100, it will be more divided. So